All right, we have been working on looking at different types of ecosystems. And when we look at ecosystems, scientists look at what's alive and what's not alive in each ecosystem to determine what can and cannot live there. And what we've learned is that scientists call things that are not living or not alive or not biotic, they call them abiotic. And things that are living, they call them biotic factors. So we're going to review just a little bit. So I want you to make sure that you check page 20 in your notebook to make sure that you got biotic and abiotic correct. So page 19 and page 20 in your notebook. Pause the video. I'll give you a second to take that out. All right, hopefully you're looking at page 19 or 20. Page 19 has biotic factors. Remember, these need to be things that are living. And page 20 has abiotic factors. I asked you to list 7. These things are not alive, and they create the conditions that determine what kinds of living things will be able to live in an ecosystem. All right, so while we're reviewing this, I want to have you look at levels of interaction. So let's kind of look at this together. It says all living and non-living things that interact in an area make up an ecosystem. Organisms live in a specific place within an ecosystem. An organism obtains food, water, and shelter, and other things it needs to live, grow, and reproduce from its surroundings. And the place where an organism actually lives and that provides the things the organism needs is called its habitat. So our mealworms, or the living creatures that you have been working with, are living in a habitat. In our habitat, we gave our mealworms food, we gave them shelter, we gave them safety, we're giving them some kind of fruit, an apple or a potato, so that they can get water to survive. That's all in their habitat. So an organism interacts with both living and non-living things in its environment. The living parts are called biotic factors. The non-living parts are called abiotic factors. And abiotic factors include water, sunlight, oxygen, temperature, and soil. You can pause it here, and you can check your notebook to make sure you have some of these abiotic factors listed. Okay. A species is a group of organisms that are physically similar and can reproduce with each other to produce fertile offspring. So when a scientist starts studying a system, an ecosystem, when a scientist starts studying an ecosystem, first they look at one of a species, like a frog. And that's an individual, right? And so a species of frog would be what they might study. Okay, so it's an individual. And then all members of one species in a particular area are referred to as the population. So let's say we're looking at leopard frogs. And so a species would be the leopard frog. The population would be all the leopard frogs in that area, okay? And then scientists look even bigger. They look at all the different populations that live together in an area to make up a community. So a community with leopard frogs in it might also have different forms of insects like crickets and flies and things that leopard frogs eat. Okay, maybe also the plants that live in the areas that leopard frogs live in, right? So the smallest single unit of organization is a single organism, which belongs to a population of other members of its species, and the population belongs to a community of different species. The community and abiotic factors together form an ecosystem. So if you look at this picture here, we've got a river kind of ecosystem going on here. We've got a salamander and a blue jay and a bear, some cattails, a frog. We've got a dragonfly and a lily pad and a fish eating some bugs. So remember, our biotic factors are those that are living. Okay, let's pause the video here and see if you can tell me any biotic factors. All right, if you chose biotic factors like the bushes, the trees, the plants, the grasses, the cattails, the blue jay, the salamander, those are all living things. You are correct. All right, let's pause the video again and see if you can tell me what a couple of abiotic factors are in this forest river ecosystem. Okay, so an abiotic factor in this system might be water. It might be air. It might be the temperature. It's clearly not below zero. There's no snow here, okay? All right. So you also might consider the soil an abiotic factor, or maybe the rocks are abiotic factors. Okay, with that, I'm going to switch ecosystems and let's see how well you can do in your own mind. Kind of quiz yourself. Do it in your mind. Don't say it out loud. Let's look at this ecosystem. We have some muskrats. They have little tiny tails. They're not beavers. They're muskrats. We have cattails. We've got some mud, a little bit of grass. We have water. These are carp. Okay. We have some lily pads. I want to know 2 biotic factors that you can see in this ecosystem. I'll give you a second. Think of 2 biotic factors. All right, 2 biotic factors. A muskrat, a cattail, a carp, a lily pad, grass. Those are all living biotic factors, okay? All right, 2 abiotic factors in this picture. These are the tricky ones. An abiotic factor might be the temperature. It also might be the water. Those are the easiest ones. Maybe there's a rock or soil or mud, and we'll consider those abiotic factors also. All right, we are going to move on today in today's lesson, and we are going to start talking about how we can recognize levels of organisms in an ecosystem. We're going to do notebook page 21. You're going to recognize levels and examples of organization in a Michigan ecosystem. Important you guys know about our great state of Michigan. So our first important term here is species. Say it with me. Species. It's a group of organisms that are physically similar and can reproduce with each other to produce fertile offspring. So in this section here, I want you to think of 2 species in a Michigan ecosystem. You are going to use some links in our resource documents on the front page of Schoology, and you can click on any ecosystem, kind of stay in that ecosystem. We have a lot of them here in Michigan, and you're going to find 2 species in a Michigan ecosystem and just write them there. Our second term is population. Say it with me. Population. It's all the members of one species in a particular area. So I want you to give me an example of 2 populations in a Michigan ecosystem. Again, you can find these in your resource documents listed on the front page of Schoology. Our third term here is community. Say it with me. Community. A community is all the different populations that live together in an area. And here in your notebook, I'd like you to give me an example of a community with at least 1 producer and 2 consumers. That means you have to have 3 different organisms in this list. The fourth term that I want to work on today is habitat, and you're going to run into this on page 22. And it just brings into our other learning target. I understand that each ecosystem contains more than 1 habitat. Remember, a habitat that we just went over is the place where an organism lives and provides the things an organism needs. The term is habitat. Say it with me. Habitat. Today, your task is to choose a Michigan ecosystem. You can find those, again, in the resource document on the front page of Schoology. Choose a Michigan ecosystem. It might be dunes, it might be lakes, it might be a river, it might be a type of wetland. Choose any of those. And we have 4 types of forests in Michigan, so choose one that you're interested in. And in that particular ecosystem, I would like you to write down the particular ecosystem, list 3 organisms and their habitat here, or draw 3 habitats with organisms in their habitat and be sure to label. So we just looked at a couple of pictures, and an organism of a habitat in the river ecosystem was the blue jay, and it was in the river ecosystem, it was in the air. That's part of a blue jay's habitat, but it also had some trees, okay, in the picture, so that's also the habitat. You might have also noticed that in our other ecosystem that we looked at, we had muskrats. Their habitat really includes water and mud on the shores of a river or a pond. Okay, so you might draw that picture. So, but what I'm looking for here is 3 habitats or 3 organisms in their habitat. Okay, and today for your final assignment, I will ask you to submit notebook page 20. Don't be confused. We just went over 4 notebook pages. I just assigned 2 of them. You're going to upload 1 of them, notebook page 20. All right, you have a lot to do today, and I will see you for the next lesson. Enjoy ecology and checking out Michigan.